What's going on, everybody? My name is Paul Eston Jr., the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. No, I'm just kidding. That is Paul Eston Jr. over there, who is joining me on this Wednesday stream. So the first thing we have to do, we have to roll a very cool intro that our guy, friend of the show, Gator, sent my way. And then the second thing we have to do, unfortunately, Paul, we have to go over some ground rules for the stream that I think you're not going to like. I think it's going to put a damper on it, because there's some topics that I cannot discuss any longer. But first, courtesy of Gator here. Here it is. I like it.
Whoa. The buffalo is so cool for the raging buffalo, and then it freeze frames like right into your logo. Man, that's badass. Gator, shout out. Wow. Okay.
Gator is undefeated. It's 20 seconds long there, so I'll have to figure out what what I'm going to say before it rolls, because Jake Asman has a let's hit it and get it started, which is honestly so good.
Open.
Oh, yeah, you can't beat that. Everything else would sound corny. But what's up, guys? Thanks for jumping in here. If you're coming here after the fact, so on this stream, I do not.
Lay the ground rules.
Bandwidth to discuss Dalvin Cook, unless he's brought up. Can't talk about him. DeAndre Hopkins, don't want to talk about him. Hard Knocks, don't want to talk about it. Joe Klecko beefing with Darrelle Revis, don't want to talk about it. So I want to talk about
what's left to talk about.
Football and players that are actually on the New York Jets. So I don't want to talk. I can't do storylines anymore. Let's just get into some like nerdy numbers. I want to do some stat predictions for the New York Jets, and guys, you chime in. We'll pull up the comments and kind of go on tangents as we go, but that'll be the basis of the stream today. Want to start? I think I put too many videos out in a short amount of time, so people can't get notifications. So we might not get as many viewers. There's like 10 of us in here already. That's fine. We'll roll with it. So Aaron Rodgers. I'll give my Aaron Rodgers stat line, and then I'll hear yours. I feel like you're going to be. I feel like you're going to be way more optimistic than me and make me look like a hater on a few of these.
Excellent. But that's what I love to do on your show. Yeah.
That's goal number one. With Rodgers, I have Aaron Rodgers completing 65% of his passes, which is right around his career average. I don't think we're going to see like the 68 from his MVP year, mainly because the Jets have Garrett Wilson and then a bunch of guys who kind of have in and out cases of the dropsies in Corey Davis, Allen Lazard, and Mecole Hardman. So, and also I think there might be a decent amount of throwaways because the pass protection will be a little bit subpar, but 65 is more than good enough. We haven't seen that. I mean, since when? Maybe like
Favre, maybe he had like 64%, I think, off the top of my head.
I bet you Josh McCown did it actually.
Oh yeah, let me check that. I'll look that up right now.
Maybe Josh McCown, if that even counts. But really, since Chad Pennington, a guy who could consistently do that. Now, yards, I don't have him going super crazy. I do have him breaking the record and finally getting 4,000. But I have
you were right. 67.3% in 2017. Dude, holy shit!
That offense overachieved so much.
That's a wow stat. Wow,
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow, okay.
With what they had to work with, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, shout out, friend of the show.
Yes, ASJ.
I have 4,100 yards, and if you look at Rodgers' career, he's never been like
in front of me,
like a Herbert 47, 48 a couple times. So I'm going to go 4,100 yards. Just breaks the record there. And then
for Joe Namath. Yep.
Correct. So I have 65% completions, 4,100 yards, and then I'm going to go 33 touchdowns. I think the Jets will throw the ball in the red zone a bit, so he will break the franchise. I have him breaking the franchise record for yards and touchdowns by a little bit. And then 8 interceptions, which for his career is honestly a tick on the high end. He had 12 last.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's a little high.
That'll come down like 7 or 8 picks. So I think, and then about a little over 7.5 yards per attempt, which is where Josh Allen, Joe Burrow guys typically live. And I think to like rank him, I think that Aaron Rodgers is still probably like the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the NFL. I think if we're getting in between the MVP years and him being like the 12th best guy last year with the broken thumb and tripping on ayahuasca the entire season, which I don't know if you heard that. That'll be an exclusive Paul Eston Jr. Aaron Rodgers interview when they both do
Yes.
shrooms. That's coming, I think, next Tuesday. I have to double check.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at with Aaron Rodgers. So what say you? Are there any of my predictions that are jumping out to you as like you have a strong disagree?
I think the strongest one I would say, again, all your numbers are pretty close to either career Aaron Rodgers numbers or slightly in the vicinity. The only one I'd probably push back on is picks because, again, outside of last year, which was obviously an outlier for a lot of reasons, the broken thumb, the young players, all that other stuff, he had 12 picks. That was the first time he had double-digit picks since the 2010 season. Okay. So, again, he has not thrown a lot of picks. So, 8. If I go back to the last time he threw 8 prior to last season, I'm going back to 2015, which was 8 years ago. So again, that number seems high. So I would probably lean a little. So yeah, I'll just spit out my numbers. So I'll go in this weird reverse order here. For picks, I'm saying 3 picks.
Wow.
Put a 3-piece, which by the way, I actually, as I look through his numbers, he's only done that before once, and that was in 2018. He had 25 touchdowns to 2 picks, which is like wild. My Jets brain can't understand what that means. But so I'm going to go 3 picks.
You know what's interesting about the year too? He threw both of those interceptions in one game.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
I remember that. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. So he went 15 games throwing no picks.
That's I can only, wrap my brain around that in a certain way. So I'm going to go very low on the picks. And for the touchdowns, I'm going to go 36. I think we're going to get a little 36-3 action. I don't think while he has multiple times in his career gone over the 40 passing touchdown mark. I see him here. 2011, he did it. 2016, he did it. 2020, he did it, which was one of the MVP years. I don't know if we get that rich because I just think there's going to be a nice balance offensively, especially leaning on the run game in the red zone. And they may have some gizmo gadget stuff with guys like Mecole Hardman. So I'll put it there in the mid-30s. Yeah. 3 picks, so a wonderful touchdown-reception ratio. I'll be a couple ticks higher on completion percentage. I'll put him around apparently Josh McCown territory at 67%. And the yards thing is crazy because I think we all have a perception of what Aaron Rodgers is. Then when you look at the ground numbers, like here are his passing yardage totals over the last handful of years. 3,600 last year, 4,100, 4,200, 4,000. Like it's not
even the 2 MVP years, it was just right around 4,000.
That's correct. Yeah, 4,200, 4,100. 100%. So like the yardage isn't as much as you'd think. So I'm going to sandwich again, kind of somewhere in the middle of all this and say 42.5, 4,250 passing yards, which again will put him right near that first MVP year, right in that ballpark. And obviously that would crush every major statistical category for the Jets. Passing yards, obviously, Joe Namath, 4,007. So he topped that. Ryan Fitzpatrick has the single season passing touchdown mark at 31 from 2015. So he'd surpass that and obviously annihilate the interception ratio percentage, which, by the way, Aaron Rodgers has the smallest interception percentage of any quarterback in NFL history. That's also why I like going over track record there. So, again, as is expected, I imagine, in any Aaron Rodgers prediction, this video or anywhere else, he's going to annihilate every Jets record. And I don't know if that's saying much compared to the history of the Jets, but he is almost destined, almost inevitable, quite frankly. When you think of 17 games, calculate the math of the yards. I mean, we're not really asking for much for him to go over 4,000, which would inevitably break the Namath record.
No, I mean, even if you take what Mike White or Joe Flacco were on pace to do last year and pace it out for 17 games, they would have thrown for 4,000. Joe Flacco was on pace for like 5,000 yards. It wasn't
That's true.
Good.
That was so funny.
Yeah. But they had him chucking it. I think the week 1, I think he threw like 58 times or something. Just insane.
Yeah.
That's why Michael LaFleur is no longer the offensive coordinator. My goodness.
That is true.
We started a game by playing Lawrence Cager over Garrett Wilson, and instead of handing it off to Breece Hall, we dropped back geriatric Joe Flacco 58 times. That's what we came out with out of Summers. That's why he's no longer employed. Yeah, I think
also true. Yeah,
so we're not too far apart. I guess
I don't think
the biggest variance we have is on interceptions. I said 8, Paul said 3. So I guess offensive line, there's no stats, but just give me your starting 5 real quick.
Well, the only stats we could probably do is in terms of continuity, games played, maybe an over-under number for some of these guys. But here's the starting 5 as I see it. Dwayne Brown is your left tackle. Laken Tomlinson is your left guard. I'm projecting this for week 1, Monday Night Football, what I expect to happen at that point. Again, Dwayne Brown left tackle, Laken Tomlinson left guard. I believe Joe Tippmann will be coming right out of the gates. I think the Jets want him to do it, and I think he takes it from him. Of course, Connor McGovern playing 48 out of the last 50 games over the last 3 years. He's going to have the heads up, but there's a lot of time in training camp to turn it around. So I'll say Joe Tippmann off the bat is at center, Elijah Tucker at right guard, and I believe Mekhi Becton embraces everything and he just takes the right tackle job. It seems hard to believe, despite the wonderful video I just did about Max Mitchell. It's an awesome football comeback story, again, with the blood clots and everything. And the Billy Turner schematic thing, I just think if they're playing the best five, we're not doing any of the politics. It's Mekhi Becton. So I believe that's going to be the five. And I believe the first day of training camp, just like Robert saw last year, he's going to announce that Mekhi Becton is the right tackle, just like he did last year after playing patty cake for months with the media. That's what I ultimately believe there.
Okay. I think Tippmann will win the job at center. I hope he will. And then I'll go. I think the guards are pretty much set with Laken and ABT.
Yes.
And I just think Dwayne Brown's gonna be left tackle. I think that was discussed before he came back, and I think you could argue it should be an open competition, but I just think that I don't think it's going to be. I think he's just,
and I don't think it is either. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's open. I don't. So for the Mekhi Becton truthers in our comment section and who are going on about, hey, look how great he looks, I don't even think he has a chance. I think it's over. Dwayne is the left, and Mekhi has a chance to play right. I think that's how it's currently constructed. But again, the only potential snafu is Dwayne Brown's health. Both Saleh and Brown have been non-committal. He'll be ready for the start of training camp, which could make things awkward at the beginning, depending on Mekhi Becton placement. That could be interesting.
But if Dwayne Brown has to miss time, you have to play Mekhi Becton at left tackle and then put Mitchell or Turner in at
or it's
right,
embarrassing.
Right? You'd have to do that. I think that's just the best way to get your best players on the field. But with Becton, I do think, like, dude, just play. If he just is healthy and let's say he plays 14 games and he looks like a top 12 right tackle in the league, which I think is definitely reasonable. His ceiling is obviously higher than that, but there's going to be rust. I think even with all the drama and back and forth with the team and how he's been hurt, I think most likely they would franchise tag him and have him play left tackle in 2024 after Dwayne Brown retires. Probably. Because they don't have a first round pick. And so where are you getting that left tackle? So I think the future for Becton, if he can just stay healthy, eventually he'll be back to left tackle and eventually he'll be paid as one. I think he just kind of has to understand that, like, dude, you haven't even played a whole season yet. Like, games played, Garrett Wilson has played more games than you, bro. You know what I mean? So, just be patient and you'll get your money there. So I think we pretty much agree on the offensive line. All right, let's do wide receivers. So I want your stat prediction for Garrett Wilson, and then we'll just kind of go like what we think the pecking order is going to be in the wide receiver room. Ooh. I don't think we need a stat prediction on Randall Cobb's 23 catches, unfortunately. But start with Garrett here. Where are you at for receptions, yards, and touchdowns? And before you do that, I'll say hi to some people who are hanging out in the chat.
Yes, please.
We got Steven in here, Hamsicle, Nick, Band.
Yes.
What's up, Band? Bob, Rudy, and Ronald. These are all burners.
Beautiful.
These are none of your real names.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
Natty's in here. Hawk's in here. What's up, brother? Steven Kapler's in here. Kyle Kaz. What's up, everybody? Thank you for hanging out. If you're already in here, you want to smash the like button, that'd be cool. Check out Paul Green's channel as well. Somebody is worried. Hamsicle is worried that Rodgers is going to suck. He has a deep fear. But,
wait, what?
Yeah, Hamsicle says, I have a deep fear that Rodgers will suck. I guess I'm just deeply scarred as a Jets fan. All right, Paul, take it away.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that part is the only part that could potentially make sense, is you're just afraid of bad things happening. And to me, I think it's a terrible way to live life, that you're never going outside. You could get hit by a car. Like, anything bad could happen.
Like the kid from Benchwarmers who's afraid of the sun.
That's immediately the guy thought of, and he like runs back in, the albino guy. Oh God, I love that. I just saw that movie recently. That's immediately the thought that went in my head. I almost made that reference. Beautiful. Great minds think alike. So, but that's it. So, like, to me, out of all the possibilities, and there's a lot of things that can happen this year, obviously with injuries, the offensive line, and all kinds of stuff. To me, the lowest thing that's like to impossible on the scale of possible things, Aaron Rodgers sucking to me. it's just been 18 years of proven success. And even last year when he was bad would be great numbers for the Jets. And last year, there's all these reasons you can point to. Like, it's not just like old man, the broken thumb, the players, the team being crappy, and then it, kind of bumming everyone down. I don't know. I just feel like the 2 out of the 3 MVP years, all of that says to me he's getting dropped here. Now, does it mean the example I gave a couple, shows ago about the Peyton Manning 7 touchdowns right off the get-go? Maybe not. Maybe you're not going to get to that crazy high. Maybe there will be a couple of rough moments as they're figuring this thing out. But I don't think it's this disaster. I don't think it's this suck. Out of all the possibilities, I feel like that's the lowest on the totem pole. I don't really give that much credence whatsoever.
Yes, look, he had. I'm not pretending the Jets are the greatest show on turf, but I do think it's a significant upgrade in supporting cast. I think he's back with an offensive coordinator that he likes. And the guy had here's what's interesting. If you look at Aaron Rodgers before he broke his freaking thumb on his throwing hand, like I think we just throw that in there. Oh yeah, he broke his thumb on the hand he throws the football with, or he like fractured it or whatever. If you look at
and played through it,
right up until the thumb fracture, and it's not a huge sample size. Last season, he was at 67% completions, 8 touchdowns to 2 picks. Then after the broken thumb, he goes down to like 63% completions, and then I think it was like 18 touchdowns to 10 picks or something like that. So night and day. So hypothetically, if Aaron Rodgers, when that thumb fracture came in and he said, you know what, I got to just go on IR for the rest of the season, our last memory of him would have been 2 MVPs and then the start of a season where he still looked like an all-pro quarterback. But
and they got hurt. Right.
Exactly. So like it almost feels like we're punishing him for playing through an injury. Now
that's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Again, I don't think we're getting MVP Aaron Rodgers, but to your point, I think Hawk was trying to cheer people up, and Hawk said, "What's up, Hawk? Hawk's the man." Even if it's the last year would still be one of the best ever years in Jets history. That's true, but if we get the Aaron Rodgers of last year, we're not winning the Super Bowl. So to me, that's not good enough. 26 touchdowns and 12 picks or whatever, and barely 7 yards per attempt. You ain't going into Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' house and winning a game with that. So we do need better, but I think what me and you both outlined is right in the middle of that. We didn't say 48 touchdowns like he had in 2020, right?
No,
right in between that
touchdowns, right?
Yeah, right in between that, which is right where, I don't know. Is he? Let me ask you this: is Aaron Rodgers the best quarterback in our division, in your opinion? Dude, it's so close for me because to me Josh Allen's running ability, but then there's also I feel like Aaron Rodgers takes so much better care of the football. So it's like those two things.
Yeah, that's what I'm weighing. And also, I think Aaron Rodgers' rushing ability is underrated. I think he's been this sneaky, really good athletic rusher. And obviously nowhere near Josh Allen or Slash or any person, anything like that. Obviously, he's nowhere near that. But I think he is an underrated rusher. And obviously, with age, the underrated rusher thing has gone down a few notches. I think he does provide a little bit of that. I'll still give the edge to Josh Allen based on the running ability, but you make a great counterpoint if you were in the boxing match against him. Look at the incredibly low interception total. Like Josh Allen tanked so many games last year because of turnovers. Look at the Jets game that the Bills, lost, where he lost. Who was that? It wasn't Jordan Whitehead. Jordan Whitehead had the first pick where he's kind of like perfectly hiding in sight on the Bills guy, and then Sauce had the other pick. So you really consider all the turnovers. Like Josh Allen tanked so many games last year because of his turnover prowess. Like Aaron Rodgers historically has never done that. Again, he has the best interception percentage in NFL history among any quarterback. So it's razor thin, quite frankly. But the fact that you're asking this question and it's, level for debate speaks to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we outlined, like our prediction would make it like that's very close to what Josh Allen has done in recent years. And so, we'll see. I do think the way that our defense matches up against the Bills, it's hard to unsee us making, Josh Allen look like non-diabetic Jay Cutler. So, it happened.
All right, I'll circle back to your question. Yes, Garrett Wilson. Yeah,
oh my God, it was like a 20-minute tangent. All right, Garrett Wilson, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to base partly off the Daily Shark. That's some fantasy projections, which had 91 catches for 1,200 yards and what amounted to 7.5 touchdowns. So those statistical measures on the first 2 runs, I believe the 91 catches would be 3rd best in franchise history. The 1,200 yards and change would be inside the top 10. And then the touchdowns are low because actually there's been a pretty decent history of Jets pass catchers getting pretty froggy with touchdowns. I'm going to bump up the touchdowns, though, because I just believe in the same way that Rodgers looked at Devontae Adams like just forced action. I love the play Brian Baldinger broke down when Aaron Rodgers' trade became official, where in the red zone, it was against the Rams. Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers motioned to the left, saw it was man on man, mano a mano with Jalen Ramsey. As soon as he motioned from the right to the left, he said, "Whoop, get your ass back over there." And then as soon as he started running, he hikes the ball, and Jalen just can't possibly keep up with him and get him in time. It's just a quick drag across the field, little get in the end zone, boop, boop. And it's just like unguardable. So I feel like there's going to be forced package plays to Garrett Wilson. So I feel like the touchdown numbers, which were only 4 touchdowns last year, which is kind of crazy, I think that bumps up to double-digit range, that 10-12 range. So I think we get a little higher on the touchdowns, which would leap into the top of Jets history. Obviously, you have guys like Brandon Marshall in some of those big-time seasons, but he's somewhere in that top 5. So I'm going to go like 11 touchdowns for Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go on the 1,300-yard mark at receiver, and then the receptions. I'm going to bump it up even a little more than the Shark projections. I'm going to go 95 catches. That's what I believe. I think he's just going to be the number 1 option. He's going to get fed like it.
Yeah, he has a clear path to no one is impeding his target share. That's for sure.
Correct.
Right. So I have Garrett at 102 catches.
Okay. Wow, beautiful.
1,320 yards. I just used his exact yards per catch last year and multiplied about a little over 13 yards per attempt. Then I have him with 9 touchdowns, which
we're pretty close.
Yeah, definitely pretty close. I think you're definitely right. There was so many plays where Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers just stole touchdowns, like we would just being 100%. On the same page and motion and rubs and all that. So he'll be a favorite. I do think that the Jets will have a pretty varied. Like I don't know, the tight ends could get some in the red zone. I think Hardman can get some on some of the. The old Barrio stuff, the Breece Hall.
Can you believe this stat? I don't know if you saw this. I need to interrupt you.
What?
So last year, in the entire season, the Jets tight ends combined for 4 catches in the red zone. 4. I'm not saying 4 touchdown catches. I'm saying 4 receptions across the entire season was a Rich Cimini stat. And I just read it and I just sat there. I stopped reading the article and I just kept rereading that stat. I said, how is it physically possible for, by the way, the Jets, who in theory have this deep ass tight end room, 4 catches through 17 games of red zone catches? That's an unbelievable number. Oh,
it's disgraceful after spending, respectively
$45 million.
Yeah. If you look at like highest, and AAV for tight ends in the league, Conklin and Uzama are both like in the top 10 to 12. And then you draft a 3rd round pick, Jeremy Ruckert. Yeah, it just seemed, remember the play against the Lions where like did Zach Wilson do like a naked bootleg and hit CJ Uzama in the flat for like an easy touchdown? And we're like, well, like that's legal. You can do that. Like that seemed pretty, nice. That seemed pretty, or not even the pro day throw. The one he had, like it was a 2-yard. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. The second one, it was like a little play action, just like a dump. Yeah, like every NFL team does every Sunday, where you just get the team to bite and then you just leak your tight end out there and it's easy touchdown. Yeah, we just never did any of that. It's crazy. But Hackett loves himself some double tight end sets, so we're gonna see more of that. All right, so Garrett, we're pretty close there. So what is your then your pecking order with the rest of the wide receiver room? Like what's your 2 through 6 in terms of production?
Okay, and this is strictly just wide receivers. We're not talking pass catchers. Just
no, we'll get to tight end separately.
Okay, good. Because that's where we could get a little funky. Yeah. I'm going to go weird here, and I'm going to say number 2 on the old target list is going to be Corey Davis. I think there's a weird, like the obvious answer is like an Allen Lazard for built-in connection, but I don't know, man. There's something weird. The coaching staff obviously loves Davis. Rodgers has said nice things with him in the past. There hasn't been a lot of workouts, obviously, because Corey hasn't been there the entire programs. But I'm going to go number 2, Corey Davis. I'm going to go number 3, Allen Lazard. And then 4, I'm putting Mecole Hardman there, baby. I think he is at 4 in the wide receiver pecking order. Although that could be somewhat disrespectful to Randall Cobb's 23 catches that we talked about earlier. And you have Randall.
Respect Randall Cobb.
And I don't think Denzel Mims on the team. So it's one of those upside receivers. And today I will just say Jason Brownlee, but we'll see how that progresses, obviously, through training camp. But I believe that's the 6. potential interchangeability with Mecole and Randall because of the relationship, but I think they're going to try to get Mecole the rock a lot. So that's my 6. Again, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Randall Cobb, and Jason Brownlee.
Dude, we have the exact same order.
Wow.
even down to Brownlee replacing Mims at the bottom there.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, I think Corey Davis is being a little slept on. I'm not here to argue that he's earned the money he's made so far. He hasn't, due to availability and his play. But I think if we're just projecting what he could be, the last time I saw Corey Davis with a quarterback that could at least glance in the general direction of an open receiver, he was putting up, back-to-back seasons with around 900 yards. I think Lazard, only reason I might put Lazard above Davis is just because the built-in connection with Rodgers, and I think he will be more likely to play more games. But I think
that's probably true too.
Yeah, on a per game basis, I just think Corey Davis is a slightly better receiver than Alan Lazard. So I have him as the 2, Lazard is the 3, Hardman definitely the 4, and then come on, they can't if they give Randall Cobb snaps over Mecole Hardman, I'm gonna be pretty pissed. But
the only sneaky thing is the pure slot comment that Rich Cimini kept making like a lot uncomfortably. Like he's the pure slot guy on the team. He's the pure slot guy on the team, and like, hey man, he's gonna be getting reps. Don't be surprised. Like again, any insider can say whatever they want, but he said it so many times that I'm kind of like, is this really gonna happen? So. It's in the back.
He wasn't horrible last year at all. I just think Hardman gives us a little bit more exciting. But at the end of the day, if you're just throwing a pass at 3rd and 5 and it needs to be caught, I'm trusting Randall Cobb to catch it more than Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, or Mecole Hardman. He has the second best hands in the wide receiver room, besides Garrett Wilson. So there is that. He probably catches that little Braxton Berrios pass against the Vikings and we win that game. You know what I mean? So there's that. I think it was so exaggerated, like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is bringing all his friends here. Like Alan Lazard was the only one that was a significant investment. Randall Cobb is replacing Jeff Smith. Billy Turner is replacing Cedric Agbui. So, yeah.
And teams wanted Lazard. It's not as if they just threw funky money at some shitty ass receiver. Like Lazard was commanding that kind of money. That was top of the receiver. Juju went for 11 mil. Jacoby Myers went for 11 mil. So that was like the market, and teams were interested. So it's not like they just kind of made up the money there. So
correct. Okay, so we're on the same page at the wide receiver room. Let's go to running backs. So let's kind of do the same thing. Your stat prediction for Hall, and then your pecking order of the running back room, like 2 through 4.
God, I don't know how you feel about this. Obviously, we didn't go over this before the show, but like I want Breece Hall to be Adrian Peterson, but I just have so many fears with coming back from an ACL. So I'm going to go relatively modest here on the numbers. I think it's going to be right around 1,000 yards flat for Hall. I'm not sure if he plays the entire season, or rather gets the repetitions throughout the entire season to get that kind of thing. Maybe 5-6 touchdowns, rushing, throw in a receiving touchdown or 2 because he showed a propensity and affinity, quite frankly, for contributing in that way. So I'll go 1,000. Let's call it 8 total touchdowns, that kind of ballpark. Any other specifics you want in terms of his statistical?
What about yards? What about yards per carry?
Yes, yards per carry. I'm going to go right around the 4.3 mark. That's what I believe. Obviously well under what he was producing last year, but again, I have some concerns. Definitely.
Yeah, I did a whole way too much time into a video I've done. Guys, if you want to check it out, it's on my channel. I took the last 20 years of running backs who have torn their ACL of similar age who were of elite talent, and I composed all this. And if you prorate, the average reduction, typically running backs post ACL who tore their ACL around the same time as Breece, it's a 2/3 reduction in volume and a 3/4, or 2/3 of their volume and 3/4 of their efficiency the following year. So if I prorated that, and I did sweeten it a little bit just because I think he's athletically one of one and he is so young. But I have Breece getting 1,050 yards, like just over 1,000.
Okay, we're
on
close there.
4.8 yards per attempt, which is really good. But that's actually 1 yard per attempt less than last year. So that's actually because it's crazy. He got almost 6 yards per attempt behind that offensive line. I think we've already forgotten how good he is. I think he is as talented at his position as Sauce and Garrett Wilson are at theirs. I really think he has the ceiling of one fully healthy as eventually the best running back in the NFL. He's so freaking good. I have 7 touchdowns for Brees, and then I have him with 36 catches for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns sprinkled in there. So for me with Brees, that doesn't really matter. It's just, can he get to close to 100% post Thanksgiving, where you're starting to make that push? I just think that that's the whole thing with when we talk about these running backs, and you and I have had the conversation of this running back room is loaded. And, I know you're flogged in the street if you utter the idea that maybe Breece Hall doesn't have the most perfect ACL recovery in
I
season
have
after
several times. Yes.
But dude, even look at Saquon. Saquon is just as much of a dynamo as Breece. He had 3.3 yards of carry post ACL. He was a shell of himself. And then the following season he bounced back. So I know we banned the talking of Dalvin Cook, but that's why you freaking spend the $5-6 million to bring his ass in here and raise the floor of the running back room. But yeah, so
pecking order, yes,
pecking order. I'll go pecking order. I'll go running back number 2, assuming it's just the guys on the team. I actually think it's going to be Bam Knight because I think he is the most well-rounded. I think he's not as elusive as Michael Carter when Michael Carter is his best. No one's as fast as Izzy. Izzy's even faster than Breece. But I think if you're counting on him to not drop passes, which Michael Carter has struggled to do, to pick up blitzes, which Michael Carter has struggled to do, and with Izzy, pass pro for a rookie running back is always a question. So I think Bam is just has the most complete skill set. So I think it'll go Bam number 2. I actually have one of my sneaky predictions here is that Michael Carter is actually traded. I think the Jets bring in a back and he's traded. I think Michael Carter and Denzel Mims are moved before the start of the season. But if Michael Carter stays in the team, I think Izzy jumps him as the number 3. If Michael Carter looks like he did last year, I don't know. It's more of a pro Izzy take than it is an anti-Michael Carter take. But Izzy and Michael Carter, you can. I'll go Izzy. I'll go Izzy 3 and then Michael Carter 4. That's where I'm at.
All right, yeah. My pecking order, I'm putting Dalvin Cook number 2. Got to give him about 700. I'm going to be honest. I totally see that happening. Tyler Conklin, shameless plug. I had him on the show earlier today, and he was talking about texting Dalvin, and I don't know. I got a weird vibe. It's kind of like the full court press to get Aaron Rodgers, all these players, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin on my show. He did it on national shows. Man, there's a lot of palpable buzz. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but there seems to be a weird buzz right now that these Jet players are almost talking it into existence, and then Joe Douglas makes a move. It reminds me, although this happened a lot quicker, when Breece Hall went down week 7 against the Denver Broncos, Joe Douglas didn't play around. He told his team immediately how he feels by immediately evaluating the entire trade market. He made the call for Kareem Hunt to the Browns, but ultimately said, all right, I'm taking James Robinson. And that's whoa, we're not playing around. We're trying to win some effing stuff here. So I feel like there's that kind of vibe around it right now. So I'll have Dalvin Cook and as RB2, and I believe that he just gets pounded at the beginning of the season in a good way. Which allows Breece to come back slowly but surely, which I think is the appropriate move for Hall, not getting too frisky regardless of what you or your doctors believe. And he's in that, 700 yard. He's going to get a lot of action. So I'd put him in that 700 yard range, 5-6 touchdowns. I think he's going to be an important piece to the puzzle, especially early in the season. It is absolutely tough with the schedule and with Breece Hall somewhat compromised, in my opinion, no matter what. He's just going to be a bell cow. So I have him number 2. I will put Izzy number 3. I think Zonovan may not even make the roster, quite frankly. Maybe he's a practice squad guy. He's an exciting guy that was easy to root for last year, but I just don't see it. And then rounding out, again, so we go Breece, we go Dalvin, we go Izzy in my mind, and then Michael Carter as that 4th. Although I think your Carter trade stuff is there's a lot of legitimacy there.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not saying you're going to get a 3rd-round pick for him, but as I mentioned to Hawk, I'm like, dude, Blake Cashman, Jordan Willis, the ghost of Steve McClendon, Chris Herndon, I go on. It just takes one GM
Avery Williamson,
cough up a 7th-round pick for Michael Carter, because I think Bam is the most protectable on the practice squad, probably out of the guys if they do bring in a in a back.
What do you mean by that? Most protectable?
Like if you put him on the practice squad, it's the least likely that someone would take him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, obviously we saw it last year. He was on the practice squad for all
Obviously,
season.
Izzy, you're not going to try that. Even Michael Carter, I think
Definitely
someone would, just because he has a whole year of being good as a rookie.
Yeah,
so
someone would definitely scoop him.
Take a shot on that. All right, so now the only thing that's left to do is tight ends. What say you on the I don't know, I just give me your whole scope of there's a lot to get into because of different guys block, who's the fourth tight end, so how do you see that all shaken down on how their different roles look like in this offense?
Somewhat biased, but I think Conklin is tight end one, and I don't even know if it's biased. Obviously, it is because I've done a lot of interviews and I've gotten pretty friendly with Conklin. But I just think he brings more to the table as a receiver than CJ Uzomah can in his dreams, can statistically, career wise. I just don't think he presents a consistent pop in terms of the route runner and things with Conklin. And then to have like an Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football, I just think here's the facts, and I brought it up to Conklin today that Conklin last year, in a year that I don't think a lot of people said, wow, Conklin was amazing. I don't think that's the perception of Jet fans. Yet still, he had the most productive Jet season since Dustin Keller at the tight end position. Right. Like, and you take a step back and go, whoa, really? And he did. And that was with the craziness at quarterback they had. So insert Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sure loves a pretty good tight end security blanket. So I think we could get Conklin as a tight end one. I feel pretty confident about that. I think Jeremy Ruckert's tight end too, man. I don't know, man. I think the CJ Uzomah blocker leader thing, like that was overpaid for what the Jets ended up doing with it, with $24 million. But I think he stays in that and is the situational Detroit Lions crazy touchdown. Oh, whoa, I forgot to cover that bastard. Like, I think that's the things that it's going to be for him, and Ruckert's number two. And I'll even say this. I don't know how it happens. Maybe it's an injury. I feel pretty convinced Mercedes Lewis is coming along the ride too. Toot, another Aaron Rodgers guy. I heard Nathaniel Hackett on the Peter Schrager season podcast, and he went out of his way to just drool about Mercedes Lewis for no reason. And then I saw Mercedes Lewis do his own interview separately about how he wants a chance and he sees some potential opportunities. I think I'm connecting the dots, knowing exactly what he's talking about. And he said, I just love being an elite blocker, and I know I can help a team and know I could block better than me. I think the Jets saying, for dirt cheap money, someone who's a great blocker as an extra offensive lineman, I think that's something they would consider as well. So I think he finds his way on the roster before the 53 gets here, and Zach Kuntz gets shoved on the practice squad, and we'll see if he survives.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to bring Mercedes Lewis into camp, that's fine. I don't know if I would want to guarantee him a roster spot at his age, but he is still a tank. Like he can still block. Yeah, Tyler Conklin. It's interesting because if I were to ask you, like, is Tyler Conklin a top 10 tight end in the NFL? You'd say no, and then I'd say name 10 better, and you'd go Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Waller. The drop off is massive.
Right?
The NFL tight end, landscape is not very deep. Conklin was 10th among all tight ends in catches last year we know. Yeah, right. We don't got to get into it. And now he has Aaron freaking Rodgers. So could he be sixth? I don't see why not. I think Conklin was I really liked the signing last year, and I think it's unfortunate that first impressions are everything. Like he drops a couple passes in the beginning, the first month of the season. It's like, oh, this guy sucks. It's like, okay, I understand those are disappointing things, but if you look at his track record in Minnesota, he had more drops his first 5 games as a Jet than his first 4 years in Minnesota. He doesn't drop passes. Now, I think my knock on his game is he doesn't make strong contested catches over the middle that you'd like your big body tight end to make
last year. Weird.
Yeah. He doesn't make those. That's just not his game. His game is more finesse. He needs to get more separation. Doesn't have the catch radius to bail out inaccurate throws. But he's a good route runner, and he's got solid hands. And for a guy who's an undersized tight end at 6'3", 245, he's a decent blocker. He's really good when asked to chip and pass pro, and he holds his own as a run blocker. So I do think he is by a significant margin going to have the most pass catching production. Honestly, besides Garrett Wilson, I think there's a chance he has the second most catches on the team, to be honest.
I can see Conklin. That.
Yeah. Wide open there. Ruckert, I think by the end of the year, Ruckert will overtake Uzomah. In fact, I hope he does. Okay. I hope he does if he was worth the salt. Yeah. I think it'll be kind of Uzomah's job to lose. I think CJ Uzomah is a little overrated, to be honest. I think it is what it is. Not everybody can be perfectly rated, and overrated doesn't mean trash, right?
Yeah.
But I don't, giving him $8 million a year, I never really understood that. He had the one good season of pass catching production the last year of Cincinnati,
and it wasn't even that good. Yeah.
Yeah. Now he's good at what he does. I'm just saying what he does isn't worth $8 million a year. And I think if Jeremy Rucker can demonstrate a little bit more of a vertical passing threat and still be as good as a blocker, what I want to see is if will they use Jeremy Rucker in the fullback role. And I know that sounds like made up fan talk, but I think there might be some legitimacy to that. I don't know how you fit Nick Bodden on the roster with the 53, and there's going to be some other players you're going to have to really tough decisions have to be made to get a fullback on the roster. And I know that our coaching staff, the boys from Tennessee, they loved 21 personnel. So I think maybe that's in the cards for Rucker.
Conklin talked about it too. I don't know if it was something you saw.
I heard
practice,
that. I heard your interview,
and it was weird that he just said, like, I didn't ask him, like, oh, do you think? Again, I didn't force my fan theory down his throat, like, oh, well, if you put him at fullback, then you can maximize the tight end space in the roster. He just brought it up, and I just kind of put it in my notes and went, "That's interesting." He just said that of his own.
You didn't even ask about that, if I'm remembering correctly. So that was pretty cool. I'll probably have to rip off your content and do a whole video about it.
There you go. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah. So we see the same thing there. I think Rucker will probably get more. Yeah, I think you're right. I think CJ Uzomah might have a stat line where it's like he has 11 catches, but like 3 of them are touchdowns, kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. Yes.
We'll get those Mike Vrabel touchdowns.
That's exactly
receptions,
it. Yeah,
yeah. And then tight end 4, I think Kuntz is going to make it because you know why? Now, there's nothing that Zach Kuntz can do right now, honestly, to contribute to an NFL football team. That's how raw he is. But Zach, the last preseason game, Zach Kuntz is going to go for 7 catches and 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then it's going to be like, he's too good to keep on the practice squad. So can he get on field goal block? And the thing about Kenny Yeboah is he does play every special teams rep. So that's what Kuntz is going to have to make his mark there. But it's a fun pick. And Jet fans will be, it'll be inconsolable if Zach Kuntz is waived and we're waiting with bated breath to see if the next Travis
Hard Knocks episode makes it to Zach Kuntz getting the call. Like, have that video ready, Buffalo. You actually may record it right now if you like, and then we could just release it. And you're like, I actually recorded this 4 months ago. Oh wow, okay. On the Zach Kuntz edge of the seat, fans losing their minds. That's happening. That's inevitable.
Yeah, Kuntz. I was much less excited about him once I watched him. I was like, oh, that's why he goes which kind of makes sense. Like if you're the most athletic tight end ever and you're a 7th round pick, your tape is proball horrible. And
it has to be, right?
Yeah, and it is, but he's a fun pick. Maybe he makes it as tight end 4. All right. And now let's go to what time is it? We want to squeeze in some defensive stuff real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Let's do it. Let me check I haven't looked at the chat in a while. What's up, guys? Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Let's take a couple questions. Let's take a couple questions here from the chat while we're at it. Gator, appreciate the intro, brother. I agree with Hawk. I think Dalvin Cook is a Dolphin, man. I really do.
I don't know. Like, I feel like, we already know this, obviously. So we had the Tom Pelissero report. I know we're not supposed to talk Dalvin Cook on the show.
It's okay. We made it 40 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We can breathe. So, like, Tom Pelissero said he had multiple offers, he being Dalvin Cook. A Miami Dolphins source said, I know, Joe Shad, I believe is the name, said, I know the Dolphins are one of those offers. And obviously, Dalvin Cook didn't say yes. Now, that could go back to the same thing with OBJ. And I said, the Ravens gave him an offer and he said, go kick rocks. And then all of a sudden they skyrocketed the offer and sold him. I just don't think they're skyrocketing the offer money in Miami. If he didn't accept this initial offer, which obviously he has not at this point, I don't see where the money's coming from that, okay, Raven style, okay, we're going over the top. The only way I could see that is if he's still available, late July, early August, and Devin Achane, the guy the Dolphins drafted in the 2nd round, he looks like garbage, and they're like, shit, we need somebody. Okay, let's go for Cook. Outside of that, I don't think so, man. I know he grew up in Miami. I know he's a Florida State product. I know. I have a feeling he's going somewhere else. Obviously, I'm hoping it's the Jets, but there's been Broncos floated out there. There's been a couple of teams. I don't think it's a slam dunk Miami. They wanted him. They were the closest on the trade, and then they drafted Devin Achane in the 2nd round. I don't think you throw that sort of thing away, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's true. They have an interesting running back group. Miami's good, dude. Miami, if Tua stays healthy, Miami is a freaking problem. Let me just tell everybody. I know it's like we all
Yes.
want
Tua looked
home,
so good last year. Yeah.
we all want Homer Central, but dude, they are absolutely able to win the AFC East. I
The
think the
defense,
Jets.
though, I think is overrated. Like, I think they've got a lot of named starters, but even like Vic Fangio admitted it. The depth, if any injuries happen, they're gonna like the Pillsbury Doughboy, poke them in the belly button. Pooh! All of a sudden, the air comes out of the balloon. So, like,
Yeah, they were a
I
bad
think,
defense last year. If they
yeah.
can just get to average with their offense, I think they're a pretty formidable team.
Oh yeah, very good though. Very talented. No shame on them, but they're not getting enough love.
Yeah. All right. So Dalvin Cook. Yeah, I think he's a
Yeah.
I think he's a Dolphin. But I think people are gonna be shocked about how little money is
Really?
actually
I think it's
guaranteed
decent. I
to
don't think
him.
it's the crazy money you got, but I think it's decent.
I think it's gonna be like 5-6 mil base tops.
I'm at 7-8, but maybe
Yeah.
incentives and crazy stuff you could get funky. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so let's do some defensive stat
Okay.
predictions. Let's do sacks. All right, I got my sacks jotted down here. All right, so Quinnen, I got
Mhm.
getting 12 again. I think there was nothing. Sometimes a sack season feels a little disingenuous, like Calvin Pace like falling into 10. There was nothing. There was nothing phony about Quinnen Williams 10 sacks. He was absolutely dominant. I have him right there. I guess I'm just kind of predicting where I would set the over under at with certain guys. I think there's a pretty big drop off just because of how they're going to rotate. So I don't think there's going to be another guy who gets 10 or really even comes too close.
No.
But
Oh,
I have Lawson at 7.5, and I think Lawson will be more efficient than last year. But he might even get less snaps now just because McDonald's in the house and Jermaine Johnson's going to get more reps. So Carl Lawson got like 58% of the snaps last year. Is that down to 50? Is he going to get his career high in sacks on 50% of the snaps? I don't know about that, but he should be better. I have 3 guys that I have right around 6 in JFM, Jermaine Johnson, and Bryce Huff.
mhm,
With JJ,
mhm.
that would be like tripling his production. Huff will tick higher, JFM a tick lower. There's 3 guys I have at around 4 in Michael Clemens, Will McDonald, and Quentin Jefferson. And then there's 2 guys I have at 2 in Al Woods and Quincy Williams. And I threw in miscellaneous 4 more. So maybe CJ Mosley gets 1, maybe Jordan Whitehead gets 1, whatever. And
Sure.
that would total up to the second most amount of sacks in Jets history, but
Wow.
just behind Sack Exchange. So last year was fifth. We had 45. It was fifth. So we only
Mhm.
have one season over 50, and that was the Sack Exchange one that was way up there. So I think we break some records here, and we have our second highest sack total season in franchise history. But I don't know if I see another guy really approaching 10 just with how they're going to rotate so heavily. So that's where I'm at.
Well, I
Any big
aggressively.
disagrees
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's some
on
big
Carl
disagreements.
Lawson, I imagine?
Let's go. Yeah,
All
definitely.
right.
I'll go Quinnen first though. I think if you so he had this really good year. And remember, he missed games, and he could have had more potentially last year. He went out just when he was hot, just when things are going. So he could have added a few more sacks at the end of that total. I think he goes for Chris Jones-ish, 15.5. I think the other talent around him is
No reason
just
you
going
can't.
to like people can double, triple team and do all their crazy crap, but then other people go off and they have to make adjustments. So I think he just goes off. I just think he gets even better. And whether it's playing on the 5th-year option or getting the crazy deal and delivering, I just envision this amazing Quinnen Williams season, especially with the rest of the defense. So I'm going like 15.5 for Quinnen. And I'm putting Carl Lawson at double digit. And here's why. You did say you make an astute observation. His snap percentages in theory should go down.
Right.
And you say, how could he go up if it goes down? And I say 2 years removed from Achilles injury will do that. That you could get more quality, you could get more juice for the orange on even less on the quantity to get better quality. I think that can happen. I have Carl Lawson at 11 sacks, man. I think he breaks the double-digit mark for the first time in his career. I think he's, again, the same kind of argument I gave with Quinnen, where there's enough bodies where you just have to make business decisions. And based off of last year, I wouldn't be surprised if they give Carl one-on-one ops, and then I think he takes advantage of them, and then offensive have to make changes. So those are the 2 big ones in my
You want to
mind of
hear a
like,
depressing
whoa.
Carl Lawson stat if I could push back,
Yeah,
though?
go ahead. Yeah.
So I agree he should look more explosive off the Achilles tear. I'm not saying this is everything, but the Jets, not only did they face a lot of backup quarterbacks last year, but the Jets actually faced 6 backup left tackles last season. And 5.5 of Carl Lawson's 7 sacks came against those second and third string left tackles. So he did kind of pick on, which, good when you get it back up, beat their ass. That's part of it. But so sorry to pee in your Cheerios there, but that
Shut
does.
up, nerd.
Yeah.
With your logic and statistics and all that. I think, I mean, that would be immediately, you already answered the own potential counterpoint is good. Like if Carl Lawson is facing scrubs, he should be taking advantage of them. That's what we look for when we're studying college tape for NFL projection. When we have big fish, small pond, big fish better be kicking everyone's ass because of the talent gap that's happening down there. So when it is, you're like, okay, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So that's what I would retort to that. But still, that is a concerning stat, to say the least, obviously, in terms of that production.
What was your number on Lawson? 10?
11.
11, okay.
Yeah, baby. Write that down a permanent marker.
I just want to, because I know this is going to be like the most sacks in NFL history by the time you're done. That's why I'm writing it down.
Okay. We're going to go up to Michael Clemens here. Third on the list. I have him at 6.5 sacks, baby. I think Michael Clemens having that breakout, especially on the interior. I think he's going to eat. He's next to Quentin Williams. I like a lot of that. And let's mix some others in here. I think Will McDonald is there at the 5.5 mark. I think he's going to be there. And then we're getting into kind of a glob of guys. I think JFM is going to have 3.5. I think Bryce Huff is going to be hovering in that 3.5 range. Jermaine Johnson, 2 sacks.
2 for JJ? He's not getting more than last year? Why?
I know. What did he? I think actually he had 2.5 last year, so he's getting probably less than he had last year. I don't know, man. I think he's going to be this really good run defender, which will be nice, but I don't know. I feel like there's a reason Will McDonald went higher than Jermaine Johnson in the first round of their respective drafts. Will McDonald has more juice than Jermaine Johnson does straight up. That doesn't mean Jermaine Johnson is the Calvin Pace of pass rushers. He may stumble into 10 at one point in his career, and I'm going to keep doubting him because I doubted him during the pre-draft process, so maybe he can hang this up in his locker as bulletin board material. But that's kind of the perception I have of Jermaine. I think there's a limited pass rush ceiling that I haven't seen yet, and maybe we get there. The cool sack against Josh Allen's awesome, but I don't know if we just increase snap percentages. Can we just extrapolate stats that don't exist? I don't know if I could go there.
Not always. It doesn't always work like that, but
yeah.
All right, so that's quite a lot of sacks. So just from those guys, you're at like near 50. So if you tack on,
think about it.
It came down because I thought you were going to have more on JJ. So I guess your total isn't that crazy after all.
And also the Aaron Rodgers leads. I think that is such a big deal. It's so underrated. The Jets defense always played at a deficit because of shitty quarterback play. And there's Pops, Mike White, and all this other crap. But they played at such a deficit because their offense put them in terrible positions. The Jaguars game is the best example of like the defense held on for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they're getting picked apart by Doug Peterson. And obviously the Patriots one is a better example of the second Patriots game.
It's just I mean, the Jaguars example, it's so good because the first play of the game, Quinnen Williams gets a strip sack, and you're like, let's go. Then we have 3 plays. We don't move the ball a centimeter. And I'm like, we're toast. We're not going to win.
Yeah.
We don't have an offense. So that's going to matter a ton too. Yeah, I can't wait for, like week 1 when the Jets have even if it's a small lead, right? Jets are up 10-6. And that place is definitely like, I really think now, and I know we're good. These summer streams are going to be super tangential, but I think the Buffalo Bills are still a really good team and they still might win the division. But I think week 1, they are running into a fucking buzzsaw. I don't think
I do too.
The energy and that they're just not going to be able to match it. And the joke will be, the Jets won the regular season Super Bowl, and that's what it'll feel like. And that's all good and well. But the pass rush, just demons that are going to be coming for Josh Allen's soul, there's nothing they can do about it. Like there's no
Bills people don't realize that, by the way. They don't understand. I've talked to a few Bills people and they do not see this coming. This is going to be a baseball bat to the back of the head, which seems crazy based on the hype of this offseason, but Bills fans do not see any of that kind of stuff happening in week 1, which is wild.
Which is so weird because of how close those 2 games were last year when we didn't have a quarterback.
Right. And they're not going to have Von Miller. Like Von Miller saying, I'm preparing to be ready for week 1.
His ass is going to be on the pup, man. We're not seeing him till
obviously. Yeah. And that's a dynamic difference. I remember that Rams week 1 game, Bills Rams last year. Von Miller was fucking badass. He had like 2.5, 3 sacks. So himself was a disruptor, but everyone else on the Bills defensive line facing one-on-one against the Rams started freaking going off. They're like, oh, Von can do that. I can't. You remove the Von Miller chess piece. All of a sudden, everyone else has to be Von, and I don't see that happening. So, yeah, I
he
am
had a
kind of
strip sack against Zach
flabbergasted.
Wilson when he played us and made a huge
He
play
did
in that
the
game
red
too.
zone, and that flipped the game.
Took away
Although I
points.
believe Sauce got the pick on the other side to get it back, but
Right.
still.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. So that's the sack predictions. I want to end on just one final thing. So I want to get your. We'll start offensively because I think it's more interesting. So, give me your, and we'll assume the offensive line is set and then Aaron Rodgers is set. So those 6 players are set. So your 5 eligibles, on third down and short. Who's your package? Like third down and 3 or less. Then on third down and intermediate, like 6 or 7, and then on third down and long, or if those change at all. I don't mind going first if you need a second to think.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Because I kind of thought this through while we were just going on here. So I'll start with third down and short. I will have oh God, there's so many options coming into my mind. Okay, so third down and short, I will have Tyler Conklin and as a tight end. Then I'm gonna go with Garrett Wilson. Obviously, he's gonna be in all of them. So Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin. Then I'm gonna go with Mecole Hardman, just because I think that jet motion and orbiting shit is going to be spicy on those third and shorts and having to keep track of him. And I know I said Corey Davis is wide receiver too, but he'll be more useful at other places. I want Alan Lazard's just big, nasty tight end, like blocking out of the slot there on third and short, because I think I'd rather Lazard than a second tight end, because I think he can block almost as good and he gives you a little bit more as a pass catcher. So that's what I'll do there. Then on third and intermediate, I'll go with Garrett Wilson, obviously. I'll go with Tyler Conklin again. And then I'll plug in. Oh, and on third and short, my running back was Breece Hall, obviously. I'll go Conklin, Wilson. Then I'll sub in Corey Davis and Alan Lazard. So Mecole Hardman comes out, Corey Davis comes in. And then on third and long, I'll go, I guess Michael Carter is your third down back. Maybe it doesn't, whatever. Maybe Michael Carter's your third down back. Then Garrett Wilson, obviously, Tyler Conklin again. And then here I'll go Corey Davis as your, just, I think, a better polished receiver than Lazard. And then Mecole Hardman for the speed if it's third and long. So really just shuffling around between Corey Davis, Alan Lazard, and Mecole Hardman, I think, was the main piece of it. But what say you, if there's any big differences?
Okay, so in my third and short formation, I got Breece in the backfield. You got Tyler Conklin. I love Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, and give me a Mercedes Lewis. His elite blocking ass is going to be in there. So I like that on the third and short package. A little jumbo action. Let's go to third and medium. Randall Cobb has to be on the field. I think it's going to be almost like written in Aaron Rodgers' restructured contract that Cobb has to be on the field at all times. He is that third mid-ish guy that is just going to be either all reliable in terms of those quick outs on the outside, which I think are fascinating. Conk, obviously, I think Conk's going to be in all my formations here. Garrett Wilson's always on the field. Corey Davis, I think, is that, again, they missed it. I can't remember the game. Zach Wilson could have closed it. I think it actually was the Bills game, the first one where they could have closed it on their own, but they gave it back to Buffalo one more time. Corey Davis was open on that play. I can't remember if the Zach Wilson miss, which I'm pretty sure it was, as opposed to a Davis drop. And I have Dalvin Cook in the backfield on the third and mid-ish, on third and intermediate. That's where I have him there. And then third and long, that's where I put in Mecole. I like your orbit opportunity on third and short, because even as a gizmo gadget decoy, that could be fascinating. But again, as the deep threat, that speed, I have to put him in on the third and long opportunities, because he can even be decoy vert go.